Brenna, and I'm going to be describing some helpful strategies to use when monitoring student behavior and academic progress, being consistent with rules, procedures, and consequences, and managing inappropriate behavior promptly and immediately, if possible, and maintaining a positive climate in the classroom by reinforcing appropriate behavior. A strategy for monitoring student behavior or even academic processes can be the behavior checklist. A behavior checklist is especially helpful for students who just struggle to monitor their own behavior. I know in upper elementary this can especially be a helpful tool, and some of my coworkers do use a checklist just for academic progress monitoring, for the students to be able to kind of monitor themselves, and the teacher can come by and just quickly see where that student is in that process during their independent work period. But in terms of behavior, if this is a behavior checklist, the student and the teacher can meet privately to decide on those behaviors together that they want to either increase or decrease. The teacher and the student should also decide what the schedule should be for completing the checklist. So for example, it can be before or after that independent work period, at the start or end of the school day, or even before or after a specific lesson or subject like a math lesson. So for example, a student may complete this checklist as they start their independent work for certain preparatory behaviors. Like, I have all the work materials I need, my desk workspace is organized, and I have asked a peer for help if I do not understand the directions. So before beginning their independent work, the student would review and verify that these actions have been carried out. So another example for independent work that all the students might be doing is they could simply monitor the steps of the writing process, the plan, write, revise, and edit stages of the writing process. So for those multi-step assignments, this can be really helpful for any student. So a blog from the Scholastic website talks about consistency with procedures and rules and consequences, and the importance of this, because it really gives students a sense of safety to know what to expect when they get into the classroom. And the writer mentions that this is especially important for those students who do not have consistency in their home life, or who just feel unsafe in their environment that they go home to every day. So one recommendation that this teacher gives is simply to post some kind of agenda every day on the whiteboard, or to post the agenda or expectations in some way for the independent work period, if it is elementary students. But even, especially secondary schools, like middle school and high schoolers, those classes do benefit so much from having some kind of agenda, clear agenda posted on the whiteboard. And this writer says that this really limits the students who ask you questions and consistently ask you what they're supposed to be doing. Instead, students can become self-starters, and then the teacher can really focus on helping those students who really need the help. On responsiveclassroom.org, they give 3 suggestions of strategies to use with the classroom to refocus students on the correct behavior, to correct a minor misbehavior. Letting small misbehaviors go and waiting to address them later can actually just result in the problem becoming much more difficult and escalating to the point where it's much more difficult to reverse. Immediate feedback from the teacher can break that momentum and get the students back to focusing on their work. So the first strategy recommended is a visual or verbal cue. Visual cue can just be a finger to the lips. Verbal cue would just be saying the student's name or giving them reminding language, such as, Dante, what are we supposed to be doing right now? Or, Dante, what does our rule say about sharing materials? A second strategy is just increasing proximity, and that might simply fix the misbehavior. Logical consequences are the third strategy, and that just means giving a consequence that is a natural consequence that directly has to do with a misbehavior. So one website that I looked at talked a lot about using reinforcement. They make a few recommendations about the use of reinforcements. One is to deliver those reinforcements on a consistent planned schedule. If there is no consistent schedule, then the student will not make a connection between the desired behavior and that reinforcement. Number two, reinforcement must be delivered immediately, or else the student should know when they can expect that more tangible reinforcement. If reinforcement is delayed, then the effect of it is either reduced or lost. Improvement, not just perfection, should be reinforced as well. Number four, reinforcement must be earned based on the required criterion. If the reinforcement is ever given without the student meeting that criteria, then the effect of the reinforcement is lost.